lovelies, and welcome to Crystals and Coffee. Thank you for joining me. I am back in my car once again, bringing you my podcast after a week off. Last weekend, I was away with my boys in the Lake District. We had a fantastic weekend. It's actually where we're looking to move to when our house eventually gets bought by somebody. So yeah, it was a really great weekend to just chill out and be so close to so much open nature, all the lakes, the mountains, the greenery. Oh, it was just lovely. It was great. So back and refreshed, and I've got a brand new episode for us today. So what I wanted to talk about today is something that's been on my mind a lot recently, that it kind of just occurred to me. It's something that seems to be a recurring theme particularly on social media and having conversations with people, and that is what seems to be the glorification of being busy. So quite often, if not all the time, when you bump into somebody and you catch up with someone and you say, so how have you been? What have you been doing? The answer will usually be busy, really busy, so busy, no time, haven't stopped, etc., etc. And this seems to be like almost like an impulse reaction, like without even thinking about it. Because, oh, I've been busy, as if you hadn't been busy, then that's not valid. So in order to validate how we've been spending our time, we say, oh, I've been busy, so busy. And whether we consciously or unconsciously do it, I don't know, to be honest, but there definitely seems to be a recurring theme about that by saying you're busy equals good, and if you're saying that you're not busy, maybe that's not so good, or maybe it's even bad, because you might come across as, heaven forbid, you might come across as lazy, and it just seems to be more socially acceptable to be busy. And that's just, I'm sure that you've noticed that at some point or another, if not a running theme in life. But so what I started to think about was, why? Like, where did this come from? Where did this social concept of busy equals good come from? Like, why do we say it? Do we ever unpack why? I mean, does it mean that being busy means that you're worthy? Does being busy mean that you're more successful? Does it mean that you're just not lazy, that you've got things to do? And why do we want to be busy so much? Why don't we aspire to have lots of spare time? Why is that a bad thing and something to feel guilty about? If we have a lot of spare time, we seem to think, but I should be filling all this time, I should be doing something, should. And that's another thing that's a bugbear of mine, is the word should, which I'm sure has come up in previous episodes before. If you've been listening for a while, then you've heard me say that I cannot stand this word should, because that is a very misleading word. Because when we say the word should, you need to think about whether or not you're thinking about your own values and beliefs, or if you're trying to apply somebody else's values or beliefs, which is usually where the should comes from. So, so why do we want to be busy all the time? And I don't think we really do want to be busy all the time. I mean, who wants to be rushing around all the time, being rushed off their feet and completely burned out? That isn't something that we want. No one consciously wants that. But yet we always say, but we're busy. Oh, so busy. Oh, so much on. Couldn't possibly fit you in. I'm just so busy. And, to be honest with you, it gets on my nerves a little bit, because I just think that I could be getting myself in hot water here, could be a bit controversial opinion, but I don't think we all need to be as busy, or we aren't actually as busy as we think we are. It might just be poor time management. It could, I'm just saying, it could be. And being busy, when we say we're being busy, is it being, are we misinterpreting busy to mean that we are spending our time in a valid way? But busy can really be anything that you deem worthy of taking up your time. It doesn't have to be work. It doesn't have to be burning ourselves out. You can simply be busy because, oh, that's the day I go to yoga class, so I'm busy doing yoga. But when you say to somebody busy, that's not what comes to mind. You think work, busy, rushing around, doing things that you would rather not be doing. That's the connotation that busy often has. But busy is very, very different to being productive. You can be so busy and just rushed off your feet and get absolutely nothing done. I know, I've been there, done it a lot. Just think you're just busy doing nothing. You think, oh my God, I've been rushing my feet all day and I've done nothing. Because there is a huge difference between being quote unquote busy and actually being productive. So what comes to mind when what comes to your mind when someone says, or when you say, oh, I've been busy, oh, I'm so busy? Do you stand there in awe thinking, oh my God, they're so successful and they're so wonderful, they're busy all the time, I've got a clear schedule, so I'm clearly not worthy enough because I'm not busy, my schedule isn't full, I've got time next week, how awful that makes me? And we start to write this narrative for ourselves in our own minds because we're not apparently matching up to what is acceptable. So to me, if someone says, and this has taken a long time to get to this point because I used to be a busy person, I used to always want to be busy, and it took some retraining of my mind, some replanning of my life to actually come to terms with the fact that busy doesn't always mean good and it doesn't always mean productive. And it's got a lot to do with maybe some deeper issues with setting boundaries, not being able to say no to people, being a people pleaser. Lots of things come into this category of why you feel you're always busy and you've got no time for yourself. So to me, if someone is constantly always the recurring thing, because sometimes of course we are genuinely busy and we've, like me, leave things to the last minute and you're like, oh my God, I've now got so much to do. But there are people who are perpetually busy all the time and they never seem to have room to breathe, and you can tell that it's not necessarily good for them and maybe it's not where they want to be. And to me, that it says that maybe being that busy is a choice. Knowingly or unknowingly, you're choosing to be busy by people pleasing, by not setting boundaries. These are all, as hard as it might be to swallow, these are all choices that we've made. And sometimes we do make them because it makes life easier. It saves arguments, like, oh, I'll just do it, it's fine, I'll do it. But over time it gets, maybe people expect more and more from you. You might get taken advantage of, taken for granted, and that can breed resentment, it can breed bitterness, and it can make you sick. It can really burn you out, and it can go on a very steep downward slope if you allow it to. And sometimes making the choice to put yourself first, or making the choice to put in a boundary, is by no means the easiest option. Sometimes it can be downright difficult, and can cause friction, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a choice that needs to be made. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it just because it's hard, because believe me, I did it and it took a long time to do. That once I've put those boundaries in place, after a little while, people adjust and they stop asking so much because they suddenly realize, oh, actually, no, their time is valuable. They have other things on. Maybe I shouldn't ask. And, do you know what I mean? It's like we start writing this narrative in our head. Like if I don't do this for this person, then they're gonna think I'm this, or they're gonna think I'm horrible, they're gonna think I'm lazy, they're gonna think I don't care about them. And do you know what, honestly, a lot of the times they'll just go ahead and ask somebody else. And we need to, again, this is questions I need to ask myself. Is it because I'm doing this because I think that no one else will do it, or is it actually because I like to feel like I'm needed by this person? Like if they go ahead and find it by somebody else, does that mean that they don't need me anymore? And have I been a bad person? And again, we just start writing this material in our heads that is completely made up. And it didn't happen like that at all. I put boundaries in, I started to say no, and people adjusted, and I've now got clear boundaries, and I'm not asked for things so much anymore. And as much as that was odd to begin with, it has now it now feels a lot better, because then I don't have to feel guilty about and I don't have that guilt anymore. So it is a choice. There are things we can do to change it, and there are things that we can do to be more productive. And it's to look at your time maybe in a little bit, instead of breaking it down and scrunching it down into, for instance, you know, you've got, maybe you work full time and then you've got kids to look after and you feel like you've got no time to do anything else. It's basically a case of maybe looking at your entire week as a whole and block out things that are absolute commitments. So for example, you'd block out absolute commitment is your work shifts. If you work for yourself, then it's about setting boundaries and say, because it's very easy working for yourself at home. I know this, that you can just work and work and work and work until whenever, or you won't be working and you'll think of something and then you'll open up your laptop and then bang, you're there for ages doing something else, and all of a sudden all this time's gone by. So it's about, again, it's setting yourself boundaries. So looking at your week as a whole, blocking out sections that you know that you're going to have an actual start and end time to. And then if there's a regular class that you take every week, block that out too. Is there time you need to spend with your kids? And it's about really organizing your time. And you may find that there are more pockets of time available than you originally thought. And again, there are things that we think, oh, but by then I'm going to be so worn out or so tired and not going to be able to do this, that and the other. And it's like, okay, fine, but then take a rest, but don't beat yourself up about it. I mean, if you are genuinely tired and you've fulfilled your commitments and you have no time to or you don't have the energy to do anything, then say that, like, this is my me time, this is my rest time. And if someone asks me, I'm going to say that no, I can't do it at this time, because you know to yourself you've blocked that time out for you, and if you give that time to somebody else, then you'll have no time for yourself, and we just feel constantly busy, if you see what I'm getting at. So it's basically, a lot of it is a choice, whether we like that or not, it is a choice. And we can choose to continue doing what we're doing, or we can choose to make changes. And those might not be easy changes, but who said they had to be easy? It's just the way life is. And start scheduling in, if you have to schedule in time for yourself. And again, particularly if you're working at home at the moment, a lot of people still are working at home at the moment, and it's about setting yourself boundaries. Now, if you're working in an office, you have a start time, you have an end time, you leave the office, you're done. Same should apply for working at home as well. And as long as you get your work done, then what's the issue? You need to be able to say that to yourself, give yourself a break, and not carry the guilt around with you, thinking, oh, again, with the word should, oh, I should be doing this, oh, I should have had time to do that. It's like, no. Okay, you need to kind of reevaluate every time you say that word, and whether or not it's something that you think or that somebody else has told you. And I bet you more often than not it'll be that somebody else has told you, and you need to realign what you're doing with your time in align with how you feel as well. I have a lot of friends who are self-employed, and it's the same thing. You get a lot of people who say, oh, I'm so busy, I'm fully booked. And a lot of people will think that to be, oh my gosh, I must be working all day every day. But for somebody to be fully booked, it's personal for everybody. Some people may only want to work 2 days a week. So for them, being fully booked is having 2 days of work and 3 days of no work. And that's totally fine, because that's what they've decided to do, and that's what their meaning of busy is. It doesn't mean that you have to be non-stop 5-7 days a week all the time, rushing around and not having any time for yourself. We need to stop this glorification of busyness, and that's the correct thing to do. That if you're somebody who sets boundaries and takes time for yourself, shouldn't be frowned upon, because I know that is an attitude that some people have, and it's usually coming from those who are very, very quote unquote busy, but maybe not doing the things that they want to do, and they're doing them because it's easier than confronting and changing things that they may want to. I said the word should then, shouldn't have done that. They may need to change in their lives, and it's too difficult, or they don't want to be fussed with it, so they're going to carry on doing what they're doing and maybe be a bit bitter about it. So therefore they look at people who have taken that time, who have taken that leap, kind of put the boundaries in place and are doing things their way, And instead of thinking, oh gosh, you know what, I should do that, they just think, oh, well, look at them. They're just able to swan around and do whatever they want. And then here's me constantly busy. It's like, well, who chose that? You chose it. It's like, it is personal choice. And an awful lot of things in our lives come down to personal choice, um, knowingly or unknowingly. And it just happens to be the way things work. But because we've all been conditioned to think that busy is good, and I don't know if it's something that maybe came from past generations where the busier you are, the more hardworking you are, the more rewards you reaped. And if something is easy, it's not worth doing. It's like all of these attitudes are so outdated. Because why can't things be easy? Why can't things just be straightforward? Don't second guess things if they're straightforward. Don't try and overcomplicate things because it's something that you, again, should be difficult. It's like, if this is going to give me this reward, then I need to work for it. And well, maybe you do need to work for it, but it doesn't mean the process has to be horrendous. It can be something very straightforward, and that's okay. The saying "work smarter, not harder" is definitely something to adopt into your life, because we all need to have, especially in the world we're living in now, we do need to have that extra time. We need to have that extra time to zone out, because we live in a very, very fast changing world now. Our society is so different. We live in a world of instant gratification. We live in a disposable society, and it's very easy to get caught up in the speed of things and not taking time out. And I think, again, I'm hoping that 2020, something good might come out of making us stop and slow down, maybe helping people to realize that maybe things they thought were really super important maybe aren't anymore, and vice versa. So yeah, I just think there was just some food for thought about, do you look to be busy? I know I used to, and now I'm thinking, well, as long as I get my stuff done my way and I'm still achieving what I want to achieve and I can accomplish what I want to accomplish, but I found a way to do it in half the time, why wouldn't you do it? And I think it's just we're worried about being judged and everything, and that is a real worry. I know it is, and it's easier said than done to say, oh, don't compare yourself to others, but we all do it. But again, it takes inner work, it takes commitment to yourself. So I would recommend that you start by looking at maybe a week of your life and noting in things that cannot be moved. And I mean, be brutal, things that absolutely cannot be changed. For example, your work, your shifts at work, or your work day, or taking kids to school, etc. Those things cannot be adapted. They are what they are. But if it's because you've overcommitted to something that you don't really want to do, that's not something that you have to do. You have a choice. It might be a tough choice, but you have a choice, and it's something that you can start to hopefully address and balance up with your time. So start it with 1 week. Try not to get overwhelmed by looking at things too far ahead, because, as I said, things are changing very quickly at the moment in the world we live in. So just start off with a week and then maybe do it a week at a time until you get comfortable. And the more boundaries you put in, the more consistent you are with the boundaries, and the more used to it people around you are going to get, and you will all adapt together. And own it. If somebody confronts you on it, say, well, this is why. And there's no shame in it. There's nothing at all. Any negativity that comes from that person is coming from a place within them. It has nothing to do with you. They may be projecting because it's something that they wish they had the strength to do. And maybe in time, if they see you do it, they may copy, or they may come to you for help. You just need to take that first leap of faith for yourself and for your own health and well-being, basically. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope it wasn't too ranty, but I think it's very important for our own well-being now to kind of take charge of our time and our space and who we're connecting with and who we're interacting with, because there's also a lot of toxicity out there at the moment as well that is best avoided if possible. So yeah, so that was this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So you can contact me on, depending on where you're listening to this, if there are comments below, you can contact me, or you can contact me through Facebook or Instagram. I always love to hear from you, hear your thoughts, and get a conversation started, and get some thinking started. Is what these subjects that I'm chatting about recently are all about. And I'll be back again next week as usual, back to every Friday at the moment, as far as I know. If anything else comes up, I'll let you know, but it should be that should be how things are going at the moment. As always, I've got links in the description if you are interested in learning more about these methods. If you would like to take some online courses that I run about self-healing, about balance, about using crystals, I've got all those links down there to my online crystal academy, so check that out. All of them are courses that you can learn at your own pace and revisit as much as you like. And there's also some stuff down there about if you want some online readings, or you want your own crystal grid designed, or if you'd like to support me on Patreon and get some exclusive Crystals and Coffee episodes, then all those links are in the description as well. And I hope you have a great week, and I will speak to you soon.